So welcome to our channel. Thank you for subscribing and thank you for your previous likes if you have given us any. So if you haven't, please do. Right now we'll be talking about wire web works, as I feel it should be called wire web works or web works. So today I'll be using this web work to make the brim of this hat. And to make the brim of the hat, I've cut out the two rings that I'll be needing. Take your measurement depending on the desired shape to the one you would want. So as for me, I've taken this measurement and I'll be taking the measurement of the binding wire, the ones that I'll be joining these two rings together. So based on the measurements, I'll be taking 3.3 inches. So the idea of it is that you can roughly cut 3.5 inches or 3.6 inches, so that at the end of the binding you can just use your plier and cut off the excess for a neater job. So I've cut out the ones I'll be using for this. So the next is just place them the way you would want to use them. So with that idea, you can actually get to know the design for the brim. So that was what I did here. Okay, this actually took my time because I was still figuring out the design for this brim, but I've actually gotten it. So the next is just to cover up these millinery wires, and I'll be using two types of bias: the lace bias and the plain bias. The plain bias will be for the inner ring, and the lace bias will be for the outer ring plus the binding wires. So I've done that for the bigger ring, and the plain one will be done with for the smaller ring. So after then I'll be wrapping my small ring with a net material. So as it stands now, I'll be attaching the small millinery wires to the small ring. You can see what I use, the super glue, and it's going to hold it for a while. That doesn't mean that's what you use, that's the only thing you use. You still have to attach it. So you saw the technique I used here. The binding wire for the middle ring was underneath, but for the bigger rings is on top. This will help for the two rings to stay the why the hat is put, why the why this hat is worn. So that is just the idea of this, but you can as well do the way you feel it best, but this is just a technique I've learned and it works for me. So as it is now, I've tried to arrange it well, and I'll be using super glue to glue them up. Then after which I'll use thread and sew the two wires together for strong hold. You understand? Because super glue cannot hold it as the way it's supposed to. So that's just what it's going to be done here, and we'll keep watching. Okay, now as it stands, I'll be using thread to bind each point each point of the brim. So same goes to the ones attached to the net brim rather. But in that aspect, you have to use needle and thread. So you just sew across the wires and you get your work done. But I'll still be showing you how I did mine. Actually, I didn't know I wasn't capturing when I did those two. It was later I noticed that the thing was not capturing, so my apologies. So as you can see, this is how I bind this particular point. Okay, now I'm done with the whole point except for one. I promised that I was going to show how I did this other one with needle and thread, and that's what I'm showing right away. So that is just the way you go about this particular point in relation to every other point that is attached to the net. So after that, we can now start working on our crown, because there is need for a crown on this brim. Also, you need to cut out the excess millinery irons at the brim. So as you can see, I've been able to cut the other ones. I just wanted to feature this so you see how I did it. Then after cutting, you can just use your scissors to cut out the material, and that's just it. So I used a light color thread to do this so it can be visible enough for you to see. But as it stands now, I'll be spraying it up. It's either you spray or you cover up with the bias, as you can see how I'm showing you in this video. So if you are not going to be covering up with the bias, you can simply spray and then you put flowers on each point, so you just as a means of beautifying the hat. So this means our brim is ready. We'll be attaching our crown. So I'll be sewing around, which I've done, and this is for easy cutting out of the net. I'll be putting the millinery wire into the crown and wrap it with a beautiful material. Whichever material you have, you can as well just use your crown, the paper crown, that way. So that is just it. So for me, I've wrapped this up and I'll be cutting out the excesses, then plan on attaching the crown to the brim. Okay, this minute I want to be sewing this crown to the brim, but I'll also be using a fishing line with a needle. So in between or behind this bias, I'll be sewing. If you have a protection material, you can use it. I didn't have one, that was why I used the bias at that part. So you just have to be innovative at times. So this is what I'll keep doing till I'm done with the whole circle. Then I can now comfortably cut out the center mats, center net underneath the crown. This means I'll be attaching the headband to the hat. So I guess this is a perfect time to do that, because if you finish your hat, attaching it will be difficult and it might create rough work. So I'll be piercing a hole where I can run this rubber through the hat. So I'm not piercing directly to my net, so please people should look closely. Or so as you can see, I've actually done it, and the next is just to embellish the hat. So I'll be covering up some stitches, and that's it. You can see how neatly it's looking now. So the next is just embellish all this, and the work is done.